Hey, class. I miss you. Hey, I wanted to start something new, and it won't be new to you because you're used to coming at 8 o'clock and Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But this is going to be a video that's posted every Monday. We may, depending on the demand from the students, that'd be you, that maybe need a little more help, and that's expected, by the way. That's why you come to college and you have somebody that knows more about the subject matter. So please don't be hesitant about asking for help. I want to make it very, very clear that this is my job, and plus I love doing it and that sort of thing. So I mean, don't think you're bothering me or anything like that. I mean, I will tell you just some caveats. It's like I like to be in bed at 9 o'clock. So, I mean, I never have any trouble with students calling me late at night. And if you do, it's probably going to be an exception. You really need some help. So that's kind of how I look at that sort of thing. And you're not bothering me. So, if you do get a hold of my voicemail rather than me in person, leave a message. And with that message, tell me when I can get back to you that you would answer. Okay? And it's got to be soon, because I know if you took the time to call me, then it's really on your mind. So I want to get back to you as soon as possible. I can't wait a couple days or anything like that. I'll call you back on the weekend too, by the way. And that's probably more. You probably have more of a chance of just reaching my voicemail if that's the case. But I do get those messages, and I want to help you, and I will call you back. Okay? But leave a message telling me when I can get a hold of you. Email's very ineffective at teaching people new skills. So, it's like a 3-letter sentence or 3-word sentence that you text back and forth. You really don't learn anything other than some major yes/no kind of questions that it's effective for. So I want to get back to you and that sort of thing. I want to help you. I'll help you one-on-one. We'll set up Zoom. I'll do it over the phone. However is more effective for you. Okay? We're living in some uncommon times, and we can adapt. That's the amazing thing about the human spirit and the human brain, is we can actually adapt to these things. And you're going to come out of this stronger. I mean, you may not feel that way right now. You might say that I'm not that kind of learner and that sort of thing, and I can only personalize this. I don't know you and your own situation, although I know some of you really well at this point in the game. But if you have difficulty in an area, then that means that possibly you should spend more time in that area. And I know that's probably sounds like your parents talking to you and that sort of thing, but if it'll help you, then you need to focus on that to a certain degree. And you've got a teacher here. He's getting paid to do that job. So use what you have out there. Okay? So want to just give a shout out. I miss you guys in class enormously. I thrive on that situation too, but we're doing the best we can. And so reach out to me. Katie, man, I got a heart for you. I just pray that everything's going well in your world as best they can in this abnormal world that we're living in. Stephen, we met with the investment group. Hopefully you enjoyed that. I've got some more videos that if you want to visit with me about, that might kind of bring you up to speed as far as what we've been talking about in the past and that sort of thing. I love the interest that you bring, and also your brain. We might use that thing to help the whole group rather than just yourself. Bev, your experience and that sort of thing, I've been through the same things, throughout my business career and that sort of thing, although different. Maybe, we can collaborate on some stuff, and whether it's about econ class or anything else. If you have some questions on that, I generally have an opinion. I don't know how much that's worth and that sort of thing. Adam, you're a go-getter, but I haven't heard from you much lately, so I'm a little bit worried about you, a little bit concerned. I don't want you to just say, well, I'll get to that later, that sort of thing. But I'm worried about you. Reach out to me if you would. I'll do what I can on this end of things. Ben, I know you've been building a fence. You said that you're not working because it snowed, so you might have some more time to ask me some questions. But we miss you. I miss you. And I need you in this class, especially if you're going to pass. Hate to relay that to the rest of the class, but we can all kind of encourage each other in this whole, coronavirus situation. And Ben's a great guy, and he's interested, and that sort of thing, just to kind of have to show up too. Clayton, I love your business experience. I love your enthusiasm, man, and I enjoy visiting with you just like I do the rest of them. And I can't say how much it makes me grin when you talk about your own business and how you're enthusiastic about going out in there and actually making an impact and doing business and doing it well. That's a major topic there too. Mason, you're kind of quiet in class and that sort of thing, but I miss you, man. And so, you got the brain power behind you to figure a lot of these things on your own, but on the same token, I mean, sometimes, without any interaction, we're always better in this together. So be sure and reach out. Peter, you're amazing. I look forward to spending some more time with you and that sort of thing. Sawyer, you kind of run off of the enthusiasm of the rest of the class and that sort of thing, and so I miss you too. Shanus, I know that you got 50 things going on in your life, and we're human beings and that sort of thing. I love the fact that you just love your kids, and you're really taking care of them. And if you got any questions, you seem to get things figured out, and you got life kind of figured out and organized and that sort of thing, but you can get lost. And so be sure and reach out a little bit. We're going into the next phase of the study of production, and that's this, the production function and that sort of thing I've got mapped out here. These are the kind of relationships that we get between output and input, and your marginal product is so important. On the margin, when we talk about profits in business, we talk about the margin. This is where it comes from right here. Is that okay? And we identified in the last unit that, and this is exciting stuff, guys, by the way. Okay, so anyway, we want to be operating in stage 2 if at all possible, right? I mean, if we're a startup, we're probably in stage 1. We don't have the capital to invest and buy more inputs to affect our output, but we want to work towards these efficiencies. The most efficient point on this production function is right there at the inflection point. And once we tip over into stage 2, then we're going to actually be able to have things. We can talk about retained earnings in business and maximizing profits and that sort of thing. And our whole study last week was about this window of the use of an input, which we as small business people, we have an effect on that. We can control the amount of input that we use within the production mix. So if we just study one input here, and we can actually possibly, we're hoping to get to this point of profit maximization, okay? It's somewhere between here and here where stage 2 is, all right? And this is really important to identify those points on the production function. The marginal product is that when marginal product is maximized, then that's the same place on the production function that actually is the inflection point, which is the most efficient point on the production function. Yay! It's huge. okay? But we know that we're still increasing production with every level of input. We increase as we work our way through stage 2 until we maximize our total product curve or production function itself. Okay, and we can figure this point out by discovering, at least with a very little bit, that's not perfect science or anything like that. And after taking a few science classes and sort of thing, and everybody wanting to be absolutely perfect, well, we're finding out throughout this whole process of the coronavirus, and that's nothing's perfect. Okay, and if we can narrow this window, narrow it. That's really what we're objectifying, is the fact that if we can get in that small window, we can actually outcompete those other small businesses that are within our space. If we can just narrow that bugger up a little bit so that we can tighten the process up, so that we can take advantage of some efficiencies in our production process and that sort of thing. That's what we're driving for here, guys. Okay? So anyway, that was just a short review on that sort of thing. We can do the calculations and have it in a table. And if we know this relationship, then we really only need the data to actually identify those processes. And that's why I asked the question is where does stage 2 begin within this data right here? Well, when the marginal product is maximized, if we've done the calculations correctly, we land right here at a level of input of 3. Okay, we can see that right from our data. That's just raw data. Isn't that amazing? And, this is a simple example, but on the same process, we can do that. We're talking about probably a spreadsheet full of data, and we can just quickly go through there. We can find these points right here. And the second question that I asked you is, where does stage 2 end? And the second example of our exercise last week, it never did end. Incomplete data. We can't always trial and error our way to a full data set. Sometimes we have to extrapolate, okay? So, it was a little bit, in this process, we know that, we don't want to go past this level of input of 6. It's still positive. The next level of input is 7. And if we're talking about labor, it's hard to cut them in half. They don't really stand around and say, okay, only half of me is going to work, or half of me is not. And it's really difficult. There's not good management, actually, to say, well, you only have to work half as much, okay, but we'll pay you. That sort of thing. That's not very efficient. So we can kind of extrapolate that this is the point that is close. It's between 6 and 7, but we can't split those inputs typically. Okay? So this would be the point that stage 2 for us, in all intensive purposes, would be the end of stage 2 for this data set. Okay? So because we don't want to go to 7. That's negative. Less input, less output for more input? No way, not me. Okay? All right. So anyway, let me get into the next part of this. Now we've talked about fixed inputs and variable inputs, and there's a really, really simple definition for each on the input level, which we're not talking about any dollars and cents or currency or anything like that. Fixed inputs are all those things that don't change with the level of output. Okay? All those inputs that do not change with the level of output. Variable input, contrasting that, are those things that do change with the level of input. In fact, we make those decisions as managers of firms. Okay? So this is what I want you to understand about fixed. Let me see if I can find here we go. I've got my markers. Okay, so we've got fixed cost and variable cost. Okay, fixed costs are just those costs that are that are related to all fixed inputs. Okay, that might be your rent. Every month it's the same, whether your output changes at all. Might be the manager's salary, doesn't change, although mine did. You know, and when I was in small business, you don't get paid if you don't make anything, right? Okay, but maybe you have a set manager. You have to hire somebody. Well, he or she's not gonna be too happy if you're varying their salary that you guaranteed them, right? So it might be a fixed input. So the cost associated with those fixed inputs would be the fixed cost within the production model. Okay, so the variable costs, those are things like the fertilizer or the cost associated with adding more workers and those kinds of things. I can affect my production by actually increasing or decreasing those variable inputs, and the cost associated with them is actually the variable cost. Okay, so we're going to drill down on these kinds of things with this unit. Okay, so we've got some calculations. They're really, really simple. Okay, guys, don't let this be a hang-up. You don't have to take and pass algebra, calculus, and all that kind of stuff in order to figure these out. I just want to make them so simple. And this is just simple math, okay? So we've got a couple things, and they'll sound very relatable to what we just came through, okay? But we're going to study some cost functions, and I want you to be able to do these calculations. I'm going to use the other, since that one's not working too good. Okay, the change or delta symbol, mathematical symbol for change in. Okay, so we actually want to figure out what the marginal cost is. I'm going to introduce these calculations to you before I get into what the curves look like or what they would necessarily. This is how they kind of work. Okay, but so you need to practice this a little bit, but you don't have to memorize this stuff. Okay, don't memorize it, just practice it, then it becomes a part of you. So the change, the marginal cost is a change in the total cost. And I'm going to abbreviate here, so you can pause the video. I want you to use the pause very, very religiously if you don't understand some of these things, okay? So the marginal cost is a change in the total cost divided by the change in output. And if we were to actually put some words to that, actually the marginal cost is actually the value of the last unit of output. Okay, it's per unit of output. So we're going to take, just like our marginal product, we're going to take the change in this total figure, in this case cost, and divide it by the change in the total output. So we can get a measurement of what that last unit of output is worth, the margin. Okay, all right, so the next one that we want to talk about and be able to calculate is the average total cost. Okay, on the average. It's interesting, it would be interesting to me as a firm running a business, that sort of thing, how much on average does each unit of output cost me? That's a very, very important figure to me. On a per unit of output, so I know every one that goes out the door, it costs me, this is a total cost, including opportunity costs in this case, right? Because we're talking about economic profit when we're calculating all this kind of stuff. But then I will know, if I know this figure here at every level of output, then I can actually, I know on a daily basis whether or not I'm selling each unit of output out the door that actually, and what the difference is, that'd be profit. Okay, the revenue from it minus the average total cost, every unit that goes out the door, that's going to be profit. Yay! That's what we want. How do we calculate that? It's really simple. Okay, we just take the total cost and we divide it by that output. It's real simple. Okay, so that's how you calculate that. right? So there's two components. We've got our fixed cost and our variable cost. Let me describe what the average variable cost calculation would be, because they're very important. We'll get to that, okay? So average variable cost is equal to the variable cost divided by the output. By pure definition, by this calculation, how much does it cost me in variable cost for the last unit of output? Right here, on average. Okay? And that's an important one. We'll get to that, but it's important. Then your average fixed cost. Now, fixed costs are costs that don't change with the level of output. Now, this figure here, we're going to take your fixed cost dividing by the output. And I'm going to prove to you in a graph that actually, because we have a larger and larger denominator, that actually this thing gets littler and littler as we move out on the production scheme. Okay? So as this is kind of has some effect on economies of scale. As we increase output, this fixed cost gets littler and littler and littler as we go in the short run. Okay? So that's the important. And these are the formulas that I want you to be able to calculate on your own. Okay? So you can practice those kinds of things. Now, what I want you to, in a general sense, the relationships that we get here, if we measure, we're going to put dollars per unit up here. We're going to map it out with our output here. Okay? And if we were mapping out our marginal cost, okay, first of all, on this graph, dollars per unit, what we see is that on the margin, if things are working like they should, is that we typically get something that looks like this. Okay? That's the kind of relationship. And you can think about it as we increase output, okay? With more units of input, we're actually decreasing on the margin for ways. Clear down, and we can see it on the graph where there's a minimum on the marginal cost curve, okay? Now, I wonder, it just so happens that that point and that level of output, we swapped output to your x-axis here too, just to kind of, so I'm not confusing you, or hopefully not. But that's the same point here. So at point A, that's exactly where the marginal product is maxed out, okay, at point A. What does that mean for the production function? That's where the production function is at its most efficient, right? That's the inflection point. And we're just looking at it a little bit different by adding cost to this whole thing. So when this is maxed out, that's interesting, isn't it? Where the marginal cost curve is associated with the max of the marginal product curve and also the inflection point. And you might add this to your notes as you're taking them, inflection point on the production function, okay? And what we see is that the marginal cost, because we're at our most efficient point, since we're at our inflection point, our marginal cost per unit is the least at this point. And then all of a sudden, we're still increasing our output, but we're increasing at a decreasing rate, and the cost per unit continues to go up like this. And if it goes negative, then that's where Crazy Eddie operates, our crazy cousin Eddie, and it may even flip back this way, okay? But we don't want to get in there. We're not going to study that. We already know that's not the place to be, okay? So here is the study of where stage 2 is actually, where it's just moving up here at a slope like that, okay? All right, now, if we were to put the average total cost within this, what the relationship typically is, and every input that we have in our production mix is going to be a little bit different, but it's going to have this same kind of relationship, is that we're going to see a relationship that looks like this, okay, where, okay, we're going to continue, we're going to travel down this road, we're going to get less and less average total cost per unit of input, okay. For units of output, it's going to cost us a little bit less for every unit of output, and then we're going to establish a minimum, and then it's going to get more expensive to operate there, okay? So now let's put in our average variable cost. It's going to be a very similar graph, but lower. That'll be your average variable cost. These are established relationships in our cost curve, and very, very important to us as small business people. And if they will be, if you jump into business and you don't know them, especially. Okay, so anyway, we get the same kind of thing. We get a minimum. These are really important points here and here. Okay. Now, where's the average fixed cost work into this whole thing? Well, what we see is, let's see, if we have no output and we still have the fixed cost, it's going to be relatively high per unit of output. So we know it's going to start relatively high, and it may look something like this. And it almost like it doesn't seem to decrease anymore once we get out this way. Okay, but it actually follows this relationship because our denominator keeps increasing through this whole process. Okay, so in general, this is what our cost curves look like. And we can establish a whole bunch of data from this kind of, knowing this kind of relationship. We got to get into the data in order to establish that and find out where the big parts are. From this right here, I can, depending on the price of my output that I get to sell it for, I can establish some things, okay? We know that this is the minimum of our average total cost. So if we're going to minimize the average total cost, and that's actually a break-even point. This would be a break-even output right here, as long as the price is high enough. Okay, important points. We're going to cover all of our costs as long as the price is right here. And this actually per unit of output becomes price. Okay? So as long as the price is right here, I can break even. Okay? That's not the objective, is to get into business to break even, is it? We've got to feed our family. We've got to pay ourselves. We've got a few other things, responsibilities. If it's higher than that, though, that's where we want to establish ourselves. Okay, so, and where do we want to sell that product? Now, I mean, in business, there's all kinds of opportunities to forward contract. If you know this price, it's powerful stuff, okay? If you can't get this price, if you can only get a price lower than this, maybe it's not a good business to be in, especially on a regular basis where you can't establish a price above it. Okay? So this is bad. Eventually you'll go bankrupt if you're selling things for less than what you have in them and that sort of thing. We'll get a chance to talk about why you would stay in business and other case studies. But anyway, the relationship here is that price, the market price. Remember the market. I'm firm. I don't have any power over what the price is. So, but I do know what it is. So if I know my break-even price here at the most efficient level of output, then I can actually go, maybe I don't want to raise that crop. Maybe I don't want to sell those shoes. Maybe you can make some real business decisions with this kind of relationship, knowing them. So it's really important in business, by the way. And I think that sometimes gets lost. That's why I keep mentioning it, that, there's a relationship between economics and business. They kind of go hand in glove. So anyway, knowing that price there, being able to cover my variable cost right here is also an important point. All right? And that level, I'd have to produce at this level in order to I'll put a Q star here and a Q star here and a Q star here, just to signify them as important. Hopefully you're taking some notes, okay? Because it's easier, sometimes it's like, that doesn't make any sense, but when you start scratching this stuff down on a notepad and you write it down, that's just another way of learning, okay? So that's an important point. This is an important point. This is an important price levels right here, okay? And I want you to think about this. This price level is very important too, because at this level of output, okay, if the market's offering this price, I cover all my variable costs. Important. Now, my fixed costs, whether I have any output or not, I have to pay those. Okay, so at an output level of 0, I have to pay my fixed costs. So this is at this price level, I'm actually, it's like, should I stay in production? Or not? I mean, I have my fixed costs no matter what. I could just go home and sit in a lazy boy. I've been doing that too often too lately. Watching TV. Anybody else? Okay. But anyway, so if I'm at this level of output, putting all my energy into the business and just paying my variable costs, it's very closely related to this point here where I have 0 output. Okay? Because I still have my fixed costs. I'm just covering my variable costs in that point. Okay? And in this whole discussion, too, we could always say, well, what happens if price is in between here? Okay? Let's just put a little price here. And where should I operate? Okay, if the market is offering this right here. Okay? Well, I'm gonna actually tell you something. I'm letting you in on a secret in this whole discussion. Okay? I want to operate in order to maximize profits or minimize losses, by the way, which is actually a counter statement but means the same thing. Okay? Maybe that doesn't make any sense. I'll explain it in more depth possibly later, and I've got some videos that I'm going to upload that are actually going to help you with that, hopefully. But anyway, when your marginal cost is equal to the price, and this is in a perfectly competitive model, okay? So when the marginal cost is equal to the price, which you're going to have to just take this as gospel right now. We'll prove it in a little while. Okay? Equals the marginal revenue. I keep throwing in these margins, okay? Really, really important stuff. But I'll get to that. But this is the part that you need to really understand right now, where the marginal cost equals the marginal product will either maximize profits or it'll minimize your losses. Okay, so at this price level, market's offering this price level. I want to operate if I want to, in this case, minimize losses at this point right here. Okay, where marginal cost equals price, which equals marginal revenue, by the way. Okay, so I would operate there. Now, I mean, the interesting question to this for all of us would be is like, are you going to choose to operate? Well, we all know that if things are going out the door and we're losing money, that would be the difference between this point and this point. Okay, our average total cost is here, our marginal cost is here, so we're losing, that's a loss for every unit of output. Okay, but think about it, guys. In the short run, would I operate at this price? And this is what farmers are faced with every day, by the way, or every season, is that I might operate because I'm actually at this price, I'm covering all my variable costs, okay, and this much is going to fixed costs. And this amount right here is actually uncovered fixed costs. I'll put a double tick there. Maybe that'll make a little smiley there, maybe. Okay, that's the amount I'm losing. But if I were not operating, totally shut down, I still have all my fixed costs. At least at this price level in the short run, I'm making up some of my fixed costs, all of my variable costs. I'm just losing this much. I would be losing all of my fixed costs if I were shut down. Okay? And in the short run, if the price is between these 2 points right here, all right, then in the short run, I probably would operate. And that's what we see our farmers actually doing on a year-to-year basis. Is that if the price level is somewhere in here, they go ahead and operate. You can't do that long term because that's actually I mean, we don't have to spell out the calculation for that. It's bankruptcy because we're going in the hole every year, actually adding to our debt probably and that sort of thing as a result. So we would choose to operate here if the price was here. All right, in the long run, can't do it. All right, but we're planning for the future all the time as business people, but we're operating in the short run all the time. And that's why we would make a decision like that, because if we completely shut down, we still have our fixed costs. Okay, so hopefully that helps you. I know this is kind of a long video. Hopefully you just stopped it and paused it and that sort of thing. There's some extra videos. I mean, they're part of the lesson, and hopefully they'll drill down a little bit deeper on some of these concepts and take it a little bit farther. I've got a guy, I found him on YouTube. He's kind of entertaining, if nothing else. I want your feedback on this, but we might use some of these videos in the future. I've been actually listening to him for a few years. As an economist, you know, we got off-the-wall kind of humor. Anyway, we get a kick out of something that maybe most of the masses don't. And you already understand that about me, so I don't have to go into that too much. But his videos are really, really short. So I want to warn you there, is that you got to stop and pause them, stop and pause them, and take some notes while you go. I would encourage you to do that. Draw those graphs out, understand them. Relationships with inputs and outputs, and throwing cost into the whole world of this production economics is an absolute. I mean, this is the nitty gritty of business right here. That's what I love about it, to be honest with you. Okay? And I just want to transfer that love of production economics and business to you guys. And I may not be that successful at it, but I'm trying. So pause those videos. They're 3 to 5 minutes, and they go through a plethora of information explaining these concepts. Hopefully this video has helped, and I look forward to our Wednesday meeting because I get to see most of you. Okay, if you show up. You gotta show up. All right. So, and then I may say this too much, but I don't know if I can say it enough. Is that, hey, listen, I get paid for this. I'm getting paid to have fun, and so please call me. I'll set up a Zoom meeting. However, we can do one-on-ones. With technology these days, and I'm kind of getting it figured out even a little more. At least I think I am, which I think I've gotten some traction on that one. But anyway, I think we can put something together, get you a little bit farther down the road, and that sort of thing. Wanted to make sure that I told you, but the research paper is due on Friday. I have extended a few dates for a few people, but if you keep asking me for those things, it kind of, I don't say it. Well, yeah, okay, I'll tell you. I'll be honest. It irritates me a little bit because you just need to get it done, okay? There will never be a perfectly done research paper. I mean, even the guys at the top, they don't submit. You have to get things done at some point. You got to get that output. You got to put it on the shelf. You got to make it available for your consumer. You got to build your web page so you can. You got to get it done. Okay, and it's not perfect all the time. I'm not saying that I want a less than a substandard research paper, by the way, but sometimes you just have to get her done. Get her done. Larry the Cable Guy, man, he's my hero. All right. You guys take care. I miss you, like I always do. Love you. Bye.